The monster among us, the untold evil of Ted Bundy. He was everything a monster shouldn't be. Elegant, articulate, a straight-A law student with a bright political future. He was the kind of man you'd gladly help carry groceries to his car. But behind that brilliant smile lay a terrifying truth. A sadistic sociopath who didn't just take lives, but reveled in absolute post-mortem control. Before DNA profiling, before the term serial killer was even part of our daily vocabulary, he turned 5 states into his personal hunting grounds. He would eventually call himself the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. His defense team called him the very definition of heartless evil. The world knew him as Ted Bundy. But how did a man so aggressively hunted by police manage to slip through their fingers, escape maximum security twice, and keep killing? To understand the terror Ted Bundy inflicted, we have to look at the terrifying precision of his early years. There is no consensus on when his bloodlust actually began. Before his execution on January 24, 1989, Bundy played mind games with investigators, hinting at murders dating back to 1969 in New Jersey and Seattle. But the documented nightmare officially began in 1974. January 4, 1974. Around midnight, Bundy breaks into the basement apartment of 18-year-old university student Karen Sparks. He bludgeons her with a metal rod from her own bed frame. She survives, but with permanent brain damage. Just weeks later, on February 1st, he breaks into the room of Linda and Healy, a radio weather broadcaster. He beats her unconscious, dresses her, and carries her away into the night. She would never be seen alive again. Over the next 6 months, young, attractive college students begin vanishing at a terrifying rate of about 1 per month. Donna Gail Manson, Susan Elaine Rancourt, Roberta Kathleen Parks, Brenda Carroll Ball. They shared 2 distinct features. They were brilliant, and they all wore their hair long, parted precisely down the middle. But the police were completely in the dark. What? Because Bundy had mastered the art of leaving zero forensic evidence. This was an era before DNA databases, fingerprints were easily wiped away, and Bundy utilized a deeply manipulative psychological weapon: empathy. Witnesses began reporting a handsome man wearing a fake arm sling or a leg cast, struggling to carry books or a briefcase to his car, a light brown or tan Volkswagen Beetle. He would target kind-hearted women, asking for a quick hand. The moment they reached his car, the trap snapped shut. A crowbar to the skull, handcuffs, and a one-way trip to a remote location. As the police struggled, Bundy's arrogance grew to an astonishing, almost unbelievable level. On June 11, 1974, he abducted 18-year-old Georgianne Hawkins from a brightly lit alleyway. The next afternoon, while 3 Seattle homicide detectives were literally on their hands and knees combing the crime scene, Bundy did the unthinkable. He walked right back into the active crime scene. Unobserved by detectives, he located and picked up a pair of earrings and a shoe belonging to Hawkins that he had dropped, pocketed them, and casually walked away. Homicide detective Robert Keppel would later call it a feat so brazen it astounded law enforcement. But what he did next was worse. Bundy didn't just kill. He revisited the remote mountain dump sites of his victims, sometimes spending hours grooming the corpses, applying makeup, and washing their hair, until decomposition made it impossible. By July 14, 1974, his insolence peaked. In broad daylight, at a crowded beach at Lake Sammamish, he introduced himself to multiple women as Ted, asking for help with a sailboat. He abducted 2 women, Janice and OTT and Denise Marie Naslund, within 4 hours of each other. The state was in a panic. Seattle police finally fed thousands of names into a massive, primitive King County payroll computer, searching for cross-references, people named Ted, owners of Volkswagens, acquaintances of the victims. Out of thousands of names, a list of 26 top suspects emerged. Literally at the top of that pile? Theodore Robert Bundy. But just as the net began to tighten in Washington, the murders abruptly stopped. Bundy had moved. He was accepted into the University of Utah Law School. But while he tried to blend in as a law student, his dark urge followed him. A new string of bodies began appearing in Utah and Colorado. Nancy Wilcox, Melissa Ann Smith, Laura and Aim. Note, for decades, Aim's case was suspected, but it wasn't until modern forensic DNA testing in 2026 that her murder was officially, indisputably tied to Bundy. But on November 8, 1974, Bundy's flawless streak of manipulation fell apart. He approached 18-year-old Carol DaRonch at a mall, identifying himself as Officer Roseland. He claimed someone had broken into her car and told her she needed to come to the station. Trusting him, she got into his Volkswagen. As he drove, DaRonch noticed they were heading away from the police station. Suddenly, Bundy pulled over, pulled out a gun, and slammed a pair of handcuffs onto her wrist. But in his frantic state, he made a critical mistake. He accidentally fastened both cuffs to the exact same wrist. DaRonch fought like hell, threw the door open, and escaped into the night. It was the beginning of the end. Later that same night, frustrated by his failure, Bundy abducted Deborah Jean Kent from a nearby high school. But he dropped something in the parking lot. A key. A key that perfectly unlocked the handcuffs remaining on Carol DaRonch's wrist. On August 16, 1975, Bundy's luck ran out. A Utah Highway Patrol officer pulled him over for driving suspiciously. Inside his Volkswagen Beetle, the passenger seat was entirely removed. In the trunk and back seat, police found a ski mask, a mask made from pantyhose, a crowbar, rope, and an ice pick. Bundy casually claimed they were just household items. But the police weren't buying it. Carol DaRonch picked him out of a lineup. In 1976, he was convicted of aggravated kidnapping. But the monster wasn't done. Not even close. Extradited to Colorado to face murder charges for Karen Campbell, Bundy decided to act as his own attorney. Because he was representing himself, the judge allowed a massive oversight. He didn't have to wear handcuffs or leg shackles in the courthouse. On June 7, 1977, during a trial recess, Bundy asked to visit the courthouse law library. Hidden behind a massive bookcase, he opened a second-story window and leaped to the ground. He spent 6 days hiding in the brutal terrain of Aspen Mountain before being recaptured. But instead of staying put, knowing the prosecution's case against him was weak and falling apart, Bundy's pathological need for control forced his hand. Back in his cell in Glenwood Springs, Bundy began shedding weight, losing 35 pounds on purpose. He acquired a hacksaw blade from another inmate and over months, silently sawed a tiny, 1-foot square hole in the steel reinforcing bars of his cell ceiling. On the night of December 30, 1977, while the jail staff were stripped down for the Christmas holidays, Ted Bundy stripped to his underwear, wriggled through the ceiling into the crawl space, walked right into the head jailer's apartment while the jailer was out, changed into civilian clothes, and walked out the front door. By the time jailers realized his bed was stuffed with books under the covers, Bundy was already on a flight to Chicago. He was gone. Bundy would flee to Florida, where his final, most chaotic and brutal attacks would take place before his final capture in 1978. He received 3 death sentences and met his end in the electric chair at Florida State Prison in 1989. He was a man who weaponized the trust of a generation, leaving an indelible scar on history. He proved that true evil doesn't lurk in the dark shadows. Sometimes, it wears a smile, holds a door open, and asks for your help. Bundy's final terrifying spree in Florida changed the legal system forever, leading to one of the most televised, chaotic trials in American history.